America is witnessing a legal earthquake that will reverberate across the nation for years to come. The Supreme Court has issued a 9-0 emergency order, a unanimous decision that has taken the country by storm, immediately reshaping laws that millions of Americans have depended on for decades. This ruling is not just a minor adjustment or a technical interpretation. It is a fundamental redefinition of legal boundaries, enforcement practices, and individual rights. From civil liberties to business regulations, from law enforcement procedures to personal protections, the consequences of this decision are profound, immediate, and unavoidable. The unanimity of the court underscores the clarity and urgency of the matter. This is a decision that leaves no room for ambiguity or delay, demanding attention from citizens, government agencies, and private entities alike. The moment the emergency order was announced, legal analysts, politicians, business leaders, and ordinary Americans alike scrambled to understand its implications. Emergency orders from the Supreme Court are rare, and when they happen, they are reserved for situations where immediate intervention is necessary to prevent irreparable harm. In this case, the unanimous 9-0 vote signals not only the court's agreement on the legal merits, but also the seriousness with which it views the potential consequences of waiting for the usual judicial processes. For ordinary citizens, this ruling changes the rules of the game overnight. What was considered legal yesterday might now be restricted, and what was prohibited could now fall under new protections. Understanding the scope and depth of this ruling is critical because its impact is already cascading through every level of government and society. The emergency order directly challenges the status quo that has existed across multiple areas of law. State and federal regulations are now required to align immediately with the court's interpretation. This is unprecedented because it effectively overrides conflicting rulings from lower courts, leaving no room for partial compliance. Americans in states with previously conflicting laws may suddenly find themselves operating under a new, uniform legal framework. This has enormous implications for both citizens and local governments. For example, policies that once varied widely from state to state must now be re-evaluated in light of this court directive, potentially affecting voting laws, public health regulations, environmental rules, and even business licensing requirements. Agencies that fail to adapt quickly may face legal challenges or liabilities, while individuals must be vigilant to ensure their actions remain lawful under the newly clarified legal landscape. Civil liberties are one of the most directly affected areas. The court's decision clearly signals that certain government practices, which were previously considered acceptable, may now fall under strict scrutiny or be prohibited entirely. Simultaneously, rights that were previously limited could now be expanded, offering new protections for citizens. The unanimous nature of the ruling demonstrates that the justices found the legal issues indisputable, leaving no room for compromise or interpretation. For Americans who have followed the legal debates closely, this is a rare and extraordinary moment. A 9-0 decision on an emergency matter is nearly unheard of, and serves as a clear message that the court views this as a fundamental constitutional issue. The implications for personal freedom, government oversight, and the balance of power are enormous, requiring careful attention from anyone affected by these changes. Law enforcement procedures are also undergoing immediate transformation. The emergency order could fundamentally alter how police operate, how investigations are conducted, and how citizens interact with authorities. Agencies may need to revise standard operating procedures, retrain personnel, and reassess protocols to ensure compliance with the court's ruling. Everyday Americans may notice a change in how law enforcement approaches routine interactions, traffic stops, or administrative checks. In some cases, evidence collection procedures or warrant requirements may be altered to comply with the new legal standards. The ruling effectively recalibrates the balance between citizen protections and enforcement authority, meaning that both individuals and law enforcement officials must adapt quickly to the newly established legal framework. Ignorance of these changes is no longer an option. The law has shifted, and adaptation is mandatory. Businesses and financial institutions are facing significant and immediate consequences as well. Companies that rely on previous interpretations of the law must quickly reassess their policies, compliance strategies, and operational protocols. Regulatory frameworks that were once considered stable may now be altered by the court's emergency order, requiring swift action to prevent legal exposure. Industries such as healthcare, technology, finance, and manufacturing are particularly affected because they operate under tightly regulated standards that now may conflict with this ruling. Compliance teams are urgently reviewing internal policies, while legal counsel is advising on potential risks and steps to align with the court's directives. In this sense, the ruling is not just a legal event, it is an economic one, with the potential to disrupt business operations and financial stability if entities fail to act quickly. The emergency order also directly affects personal rights in ways that may be subtle but profound. Privacy protections, property rights, access to public services, and participation in civic processes may all be impacted. Americans who assumed certain rights were limited or conditional may now find new legal avenues available to them, while those who relied on previous legal allowances may find themselves facing new restrictions. The immediate effects of the ruling are already visible in news reports and government communications, but the longer-term implications could reshape the very understanding of civil liberties in the United States. This is a pivotal moment for citizens, who must not only understand the law as it stands, but also anticipate how these changes may influence their rights and responsibilities in the months and years ahead. Political ramifications are equally significant. A unanimous Supreme Court ruling carries tremendous weight, influencing legislative decisions, public policy, and political discourse across the country. Lawmakers may be forced to adjust pending legislation, while advocacy groups and public officials may reinterpret their strategies in light of the court's ruling. Public debates will inevitably focus on the balance of power between government branches, the role of the judiciary, and the protection of individual freedoms. Citizens are witnessing firsthand how a single judicial action can ripple across the political spectrum, shaping the policies and governance strategies of the nation. The ruling will not only affect immediate legal practices, but will also become a reference point for political and legislative decisions in the future, demonstrating the enduring influence of the Supreme Court. The court's decision also emphasizes the unprecedented speed at which the law can now change. Emergency orders bypass traditional procedural delays, and a 9-0 ruling carries the authority to enforce immediate compliance. This means that individuals, businesses, and government agencies alike must act without hesitation. Policies that were once considered settled may no longer apply, and practices that were routine could suddenly be prohibited or restricted. Legal experts emphasize that the speed of this ruling underscores the urgency and importance of the issues involved. The court clearly recognized that delay could result in harm, injustice, or ongoing constitutional violations, making the emergency order both a preventative and corrective measure. The lesson is clear. The law can move rapidly, and remaining uninformed or unprepared carries serious consequences. Historically, emergency orders of this magnitude are rare, and unanimous 9-0 decisions are even more exceptional. This ruling will not only impact current practices, but also establish a precedent for future judicial decisions. Legal scholars predict that courts at all levels will reference this emergency order in interpreting similar cases, potentially influencing constitutional law, administrative practices, and civil rights for decades to come. The emergency nature, combined with the unanimity, signals that the court intended this ruling to be both immediate and enduring, providing clarity where previously there may have been uncertainty. Americans are witnessing a landmark moment, one that demonstrates the power of the judiciary to act decisively in shaping the nation's legal landscape. The Supreme Court's emergency order also raises important questions about the limits of government power. By addressing conflicts between state and federal laws, the court is asserting its authority to ensure uniformity and consistency in areas of national importance. This has implications for federalism, the relationship between local and national governments, and the protection of citizens from inconsistent or arbitrary regulations. It is a reminder that the Constitution grants the judiciary the ultimate responsibility to interpret the law and safeguard fundamental rights, even in situations where public opinion, political agendas, or bureaucratic practices might resist change. Understanding these dynamics is critical for anyone seeking to grasp the broader significance of this ruling. On a personal level, citizens must now consider how their daily lives may be affected, whether it is engaging with law enforcement, managing business operations, accessing public services, or exercising civil liberties. The legal environment has shifted overnight. People will need to stay informed, review their actions in light of the new ruling, and seek guidance when necessary to ensure compliance and protection under the law. Ignoring these changes could result in serious consequences, from legal penalties to the loss of previously protected rights. The Supreme Court's decision has redefined the boundaries of what is permissible, making awareness, understanding, and adaptation essential for everyone. The economic implications are equally vast. Regulatory compliance, contractual obligations, licensing requirements, and corporate governance are all subject to the interpretation of this emergency order. Industries that operate under federal oversight, such as healthcare, technology, transportation, and finance, may face immediate operational adjustments. Legal departments are reviewing policies, businesses are assessing risks, and executives are preparing to implement changes swiftly. The ruling demonstrates that law and economy are intertwined, and that judicial decisions of this magnitude can have far-reaching effects beyond the courtroom. Companies that act quickly to understand and adapt to the new legal environment will protect themselves from exposure and potentially capitalize on the clarity that the court's decision provides. Furthermore, the ruling's implications for civil rights advocacy cannot be overstated. Organizations working in areas such as voting rights, privacy, free speech, and equal protection will likely see this emergency order as both a guide and a challenge. The court has essentially provided a clear framework for assessing rights, government authority, and legal limitations, offering opportunities for advocacy, but also imposing responsibilities for careful compliance. The ruling will shape future litigation strategies, policy proposals, and public debates, ensuring that the effects of this decision extend far beyond the immediate legal context. Finally, it is important to recognize the broader cultural and societal implications of this ruling. The Supreme Court has, in a single unanimous decision, altered the way Americans interact with the law, the government, and one another. This is a moment of national significance, one that will be remembered in legal textbooks, political discussions, and civic debates for years to come. Americans are witnessing how the judiciary can act decisively to address urgent national issues, redefine the boundaries of law and authority, and provide clarity in moments of uncertainty. The court has spoken with unmatched clarity, and the nation must now respond with awareness, understanding, and respect for the legal framework that governs every aspect of public and private life. In conclusion, the Supreme Court's 9-0 emergency order is not just a legal ruling. It is a transformative event that reshapes American law and society in profound ways. Its immediate impact on civil liberties, law enforcement, regulatory compliance, business practices, and personal rights is immense, requiring swift adaptation by individuals, organizations, and government agencies alike. The unanimous nature of the ruling underscores its clarity and importance, signaling that the court views this matter as both urgent and foundational. As Americans navigate the new legal landscape, understanding the scope, implications, and consequences of this ruling is essential. The law has changed overnight, and the full effects are only beginning to be felt. This is a historic moment, a defining event in the evolution of American jurisprudence, and everyone, from citizens to policymakers, must pay attention. The Supreme Court has acted decisively, and the nation must now align with a legal reality that will shape the country for generations to come.